Hey there, we are starting our Unit 8, which is Shapes and Measurement. And this lesson's on being able to find the area of parallelograms, triangles, and trapezoids. First, we're going to talk about a parallelogram. So we want to make sure that we first know what a parallelogram is, which is a shape that has two sets of parallel sides. So here's one set of parallel sides, and then our other set of parallel sides is here. One of the base is going to be on this one set of parallel sides that is perpendicular with the height. So whatever the height is perpendicular to and makes a right angle with the base, that's going to be the base, and then that's going to be the height. And then if we look over here, the area is just the base times the height. So we need to make sure that first of all, we know that it's a parallelogram with two sets of parallel sides, but then the base is going to be any side of the parallelogram, and the height, again, will be perpendicular and make a 90-degree angle with the base. So let's find the area of these parallelograms. Again, so we're going to look at this one, and again, I know it's a parallelogram because it has two sets of parallel sides. And then let's remind ourselves that area is base times height. This is going to be my base. And then I know that this is the height because, again, it is perpendicular to the base and it makes a right angle. So that's my height. So then I'm going to plug that in. A equals 13 times 5 and 8/10. So I'm going to put that into my calculator. I'm going to keep using my A because we always want to make sure we know what we found. So A equals 75 and 4/10. And then we always have to have a label. So on this one, it's centimeters. So it'd be centimeters. And then area is squared. And then we circle that. Okay, let's look at our next one. This has a few different labels. So we want to make sure that we find the correct base and the correct height. So let's remind ourselves that area is base times height. So when you're finding for this whole unit, when you're finding area or volume or circumference or whatever, you first want to write down the formula. Then plug in what you need according to that formula. So I need a base and a height. So I know that this is going to be my base. And then this line right here is perpendicular to the base with the right angle. So that means that 9 is my height. The 9.5 I don't need for area. I would need it for perimeter, but I don't need it for this formula that we're doing. So then I'm going to plug those in. A equals, my base is 11, my height is 9, so A equals 99. And then for this one, the label is inches, and it would be squared. The next thing we're going to look at is a triangle. Obviously, we know what a triangle is. The bottom of the triangle, or I should say the line where the height can be perpendicular and make a right angle. So the bottom is the base, and then the height is that line that makes the right angle. So area is 1/2 times base times height. Basically, a triangle is half of a parallelogram, which I'll show you in class tomorrow. But make sure you have this formula written down. But we're taking the base times the height, and we're dividing it by 2 or multiplying it times 1/2. Okay? So again, the base of a triangle can be any of its sides, but the height is the perpendicular distance from the vertex opposite the base to the line containing the base, which again is the line that is perpendicular to the base and makes a right angle. So let's find the area of these triangles. So we have, remember, area equals 1/2 times base times height. Or we can write it as area equals base times height divided by 2. So here's my base, here's my height. We have A equals 1/2 times 10 times 6.5. Oops. I know that 1/2 times 10 is 5. Half of 10 is 5. So I'm going to do 5 times 6.5. And I get 32.5, and remember we have to label it, so it'd be meters, and it's still area, so it'd be meters squared. 32.5 meters squared. And then if we look at this one, so this 8 right here, even though it's not part of the triangle, it's still telling me that it's the height, because if I were to make a perpendicular line in there, then it would equal 8, and it has to like take account for the whole part of the triangle. So this is my base, which is 7.5, and this is my height, which is 8. So again, we have A equals 1/2 times base times height. And then let's rewrite it. A equals 1/2 times, I'm going to change 7.5 to 7.5 times my height, which is 8. And then remember, multiplication is commutative, so I can just put the whole thing into my calculator. I also could do 1/2 times 8, which I know is 4. That's easy for me to do in my head. And then I can just do 4 times 7.5, and I get A equals 30, and the label is inches, and it'd be inches squared. And then lastly for this video, we have a trapezoid. So make sure you have a trapezoid written down and draw it and labeled. A trapezoid has 2 bases, and the 2 bases are the one set of parallel sides, because remember, a trapezoid has one set of parallel sides. You can see that these sides are parallel, and those are my bases. So base 1 and base 2, that's what the B1 and the B2 mean. And then the line in between the bases, like the length in between the bases, that is the height. So the formula, which you want to make sure you have written down or circled or starred or whatever, is half of the height times the sum of the bases added together, which we will do on a couple trapezoids, and you'll see how that makes sense. Okay, one thing I want you to note is that sometimes a trapezoid is kind of angled, so the bases are not always on the top and the bottom. You can see here that this trapezoid is angled, and so the bases are kind of on the sides here. You always look for the 2 lines that are parallel, and those are your bases. And then you can see here, it kind of looks like the trapezoid is on its side. And again, these are the bases because they're the ones that are parallel, and then the height is the line in between. So let's find the area of each of these trapezoids. So remember, we have A equals 1/2 of the height times B1 plus B2. Here's where our order of operations really come into play too. So I'm going to label this. Okay, I know that these are my bases because there's my one set of parallel sides. So I'm going to label this B1, and I'm going to label that B2. Addition is commutative, which means it can go in any order. So if you were to do B2 on the top and B1 on the bottom, it wouldn't make a huge difference. And then this is my height because that connects the bases. So then let's plug this in. 1/2 times the height, which is 4. And then I have 2.5 plus 4 8/10. So I do my parentheses first, which is going to be 2.5 plus 4.8. And I'm going to rewrite this. We have 1/2 times 4. I'll just keep that in parentheses, times 7.3. Now it's all multiplication, so I just go left to right. I know that half of 4 is 2, so then I'm going to do 2 times 7.3, and I get my area is 14.6. What's my label? Meters squared. Okay, let's look at our next one. If you want to pause me and try these on your own, that would be super, and then you can go back and check. But I do want to make sure that you have these written down as examples and the parallelograms and triangles, which I didn't say, but if you didn't do them, you want to go back and do that. So looking at this one, this is my set of bases. So I'm going to say that's B1, that's B2, and then this right here connects it in a straight line. So that's my height. So again, we have 1/2 times the height, oops, sorry, that's an H, B1 plus B2. And then we have 1/2 times 4 again. And then my base 1 is 6. My base 2 is 3. So let's rewrite this. 1/2 times 4 times 9. I know that 1/2 times 4 is 2 times 9 is 18. So area would be 18 centimeters squared. Okay, and then let's look at our last one quick. Here's my base, my set of bases, because it's parallel. So we have B1, B2, and then here's my height. Area is 1/2 times 7. And then in parentheses would be 12 plus 5. So we do 1/2 times 7. And then 12 plus 5 is 17. So I know 1/2 of 7 is 3.5. So I'm going to do 3.5 times 17. And I get area equals 59.5 inches squared. So we always have A equals whatever the answer is with the label squared and then circled. And then lastly, super fast, Ashley bought a triangular frame for a photo of her friends. The base of the frame is 8 inches. If the area of the frame is 24 inches, what is the height of the frame? So we have 8 inches. The area is 24 and it's triangular. So remember, area would be 1/2 times base times height. I'm given the area, which is 24. And I'm also given the base, which is 8. So we just have to find out what the height is. So we can do our railroad tracks and do 24 equals 1/2 times 8 is 4. So 4h. Then let's divide both sides by 4. And we would end up with 6 equals h. And then if I plug that into here, if I plug that into there, 1/2 times 8 times 6, 1/2 of 8 is 4 times 6, and we get 24. So if I go back to here, and I'll just write it right down here, h equals 6 inches. So the height would be 6 inches. That's all I have for you. See you in class.